Hi everybody and big welcome. Today I'm here with my friend Samurai Dance Ruler who did something pretty cool this week
Yeah, I won the Mox Masters Invitational.
with Kediss and Malcolm.
Pretty cool. Yes.
So Kediss and Malcolm have a pretty average, or to be more exactly, when you won, you increased, as you can see up there, the win rate by 3.33%. So it's
Whoa.
performing it's been in kind of, I think, in the lower end. Also, we don't have that many decks on it. But what's your take? Like, where would you place Kedis and Malcolm power level wise, do you think?
I think Caddis and Malcolm was an unsolved deck at the beginning of the year. It went through a lot of transformations from a lot of different players. We saw Ian, we saw several Brazil guys and a couple of Europeans test it out. And I feel I've kind of gotten close to solving it. There's still one or two tweaks, but that's why mine's a little bit performing better than theirs because
Speaking of
they're
you, we actually have a pretty good win rate. Now, we only have 3 games, 3 tournament entries. And in those games, you usually have like somewhere between 4 to 7 games, so to say. But you have actually been, from those 3 entries, operating with it quite well. You have a current 47.37 win rate with it.
I'll be honest, I've played this in a couple of competitive leagues as well. I averaged out of 10 games like 6 wins on average in league, but I don't think league is the same as tournament. People play the same people in leagues. They kind of start getting a little
That's
flinching and you
true.
can sort of play into it.
Yeah.
But in tournament, I think I was very lucky that people thought of it as a fringe deck in both
Yeah.
the first two.
I think
And
that's a pretty
then
advantage from Kedis Malcolm. Like, it's not a deck that is like out there and showcasing a great performance, so to say. Like, I think that the total view on it is still kind of fringe in general.
yeah, I think a lot of people think that a draw engine in the command zone is better than a mana engine in the command zone. That's why a lot of people hype Tivit. But I'll tell you right now, I would compare this deck to Tivit, except in one factor. Tivit is a draw magnet in tournament. You will end up with so many draws, you will rarely end up with a win.
They actually
Whereas my
have
deck,
a pretty close win rate. Tivit is sitting on currently 22.24 from
mhm,
more decks. So the win rate here is pretty trustworthy, so to say.
exactly. And that's why I say it's pretty similar. And I think a lot of the losses come from the fact that your deck will go into a draw a lot of times. So they do a little bit more risky play than I need to do. Whereas for me, like betting it all in a turn, I can normally recover pretty easily. For a Tivit deck, they lose their time sieve, they lose their time sieve.
Why are you playing this, Malcolm Kedis? Like, why? What's the appeal?
So the appeal of Malcolm is the appeal of Malcolm in every deck that runs it. It is a 3 mana, 1 pip flyer that has whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponent, you create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage, which means multiple pirates hitting multiple players. You make multiple treasures. Well, we run Kediss, so we have one pirate hitting multiple people, and we make the same amount of treasures.
That is actually pretty good. So you're making like 3 treasures on one if you have both
Mm-hmm.
commanders in play, basically. Mostly when
Kediss
yeah.
is a desperate ritual that makes you sustainable mana that'll last into any color for your next turn.
Yeah. What I've been observing mostly is that you're trying to like have turn 1 Malcolm, and then turn 2 Kedis, and then 3 treasures the same turn you cost Kedis on turn 2.
We always want the 3 treasures. We want to hit someone with Malcolm.
But then we have this thing, like alternative win cons, but I kind of almost view Glinthorn as maybe the main win con, or is that incorrect?
Glidhorn is the boogeyman of the deck, and much like in a lot of decks, Adnal as it is. People are terrified of the Glinthorn, but people don't understand. It is the most risky line for me to take to try to get that out. Because if I do not land the kill that turn, I am being targeted, and normally they will remove the Glinthorn, or they will try to steal it, or they will try to copy the combo. It is the most dangerous, like I win or I die combo in the deck. But it is an A plus B combo that you can do on turn one.
Niv miss it.
He is our curiosity goal, same way Glenhorn is. That's why we run 3 curiosity effects, not only for Glenhorn and Niv Mizzet, but also, and this is kind of cool, we run it for our other creatures that will deal 1 damage to each player, such as Malcolm with Kediss. Draw me 3 cards in 1 turn. That's why we want those 3 treasures. If we can get Kediss out with a curiosity effect, I don't think I've ever lost a game with that. More importantly, though, if we can get a curiosity effect on one of the artifact pinger creatures, so Reckless Fireweaver will deal 1 damage to each opponent. So if you put an Ophidian Eye on that, every time an artifact enters the battlefield, you'll draw 3 cards. If you have Malcolm and Kediss out and you don't have a type changer, I'll put that on the Reckless Fireweaver because you're drawing 9 cards in Malcolm Swing. You make 3 treasures, he sees each one of them, does 3 damage around the table, and you draw 3 cards for each one of those.
That is going to win the game eventually. Like, you're making mana.
That's going to win the game normally that turn.
Yeah.
Because if you draw any free rocks, any of the free rocks, that's another 3 cards for playing a Mox Opal.
But the trick is that you're converting those pingers. Here they are. The hacks effect. So you have Maskwood Nexus, Artifice Evolution, and Trickery Charm to basically change the creature type to pirate. Correct?
Yes, that is the primary goal. Strangely enough, I have prevented losses with each one of those cards when I couldn't change a pirate. Artificial Evolution changes the text of target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of one creature type with another. One of my favorite things that I did at Mox Masters, was we were about to get turboed by our Marwyn. They snapped out the Quirion, the one that you return, and they had a Shia, and they were like, okay, yes, we turned it into Jellyfish. And I told them, okay, it's a real shame you don't run more of those. And it just stopped the combo like that.
Okay, that is
Charm,
funny.
I think I gave a Blightsteel Colossus flying. Someone was being really cute and running that. And they were like, well, I'll just block with my Blightsteel. And I'm like, well, I don't think you do. I think my Cursed Mirror one has flying.
So let's see, where's here it is, Cursed Mirror. Phantasmal Image, Phyrexian Metamorph. Why do you run so many clones?
Because we run one of the best cards in the format, Magda. No, I'm kidding. We run Dockside.
Yeah.
Dockside has his own category because he is his own
he runs the category Dockside.
Yes, that is his tag. He is Dockside. We run the clones because I play Dockside, and more importantly, my opponents like to play Dockside.
True.
With 3 clones, I guarantee I can copy a Dockside. It doesn't also hurt that I can copy other things. I think one of my other wins in Mox Masters was I made a Najeela with Malcolm and Kediss out.
Oh, that's actually really good.
I artificial evolutioned Najeela to make pirates. Yes.
That's even
Najeela
it's even good and funny at the same time.
Yes. Oh, you know what it was? It was the Cursed Mirror again. Card is goated.
Yes.
I was so glad I added that. That was a new addition. We took out Direfleet Daredevil for that card. Haven't looked back. I remember, I think it was because I was going into a game and I was like, I definitely could have won a turn earlier with Cursed Mirror instead of Direfleet Daredevil because I had a Magda and they had a Dockside, and making those 5 treasures, I can, so here's where it gets really cool with this deck. If I can make like 7 or 8 treasures off someone with Dockside, I will do that. I will sacrifice 5 of those treasures, bring out Cursed Mirror.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she finds
Make another set of treasures. Because it's an artifact. I'll make another 8 treasures, so I'll have 11 treasures. I'll crack those 5, make Maskwood Nexus. Now I can grab any creature out of my deck.
And now you can find Glinthorn with Magda suddenly.
But it's actually, you rarely actually want the Glenhorn there. What you do is you find the Phantasmal Image to make another Dockside, and then you find a Phyrexian Metamorph to make another Dockside.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you actually get out the Pinger.
Yeah.
While the Dockside triggers are on the stack.
That is kind of cool. Now, normally you play Magda kind of to get the Niv Mizzet Parun, I guess. Depending on like...
very early, that is not the best choice.
Really?
If you have any questions where I learned that from, please watch the previous game on cEDH TV where I brought out a turn 2 Niv Mizzet and proceeded to be the only one without a Niv Mizzet somehow.
Yeah, everyone had a Niv Mizzet except you eventually. That was kind of fun. I think
I learned my
A
lesson.
Phantasmal Image, and then a Gilded Drake.
The Gilded Drake was just so rude. I think it was a Phyrexian Metamorph on one of those because it was the Thada Adel deck. And he took my Phyrexian Metamorph.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, that's what your Pontus used further to take for. That was funny. That was seriously funny. Link in
I was
description below
like,
of the
please
video if
take
you
the
want to
ring.
see that. It actually brings up a very important point. So there are cards that are a little bit too big to fail. Like Niv
Exactly.
Mizzet is a very strong card, and imagine it being Gilded Drake.
But I definitely learned from that experience. It was right as I was kind of like getting off wins with this. I think I had just top four Mox Masters when I went into there, so I was very hyped on it. And then I was like, Gilded Drake is pretty good. Niv Mizzet is pretty good. Let's not present that as a target unless we're going for a win or unless we really just need to draw one card.
Yeah.
So that's what I've basically started doing. Is I'm like, do I need like one or two cards, or do I need to win an interaction war? Okay, we'll bring out Niv Mizzet. If you were watching the finals, my first win, I literally knew that Kai, aka Fervent Alchemist, had all the interaction, and I was like, I need to win the interaction war. He's already lost his. He can't do MBT, or he's not going to do MBT on Niv Mizzet. So we are going. I think he had already cast MBT. So we are going to just straight up drop this. Can't be countered. We are going to be fine. We're going to just draw every time that someone tries to counter something from this point on. And that's definitely what happened. It did end up killing people because of one of our better curiosity effects, Ophidian Eye. So there are three curiosity effects. In order of how good they are, I can't rate them. They are not the same curiosity effect. They do different things. The first curiosity, that's my Mystic Remora. That's what I use it as. It is just straight up draw three. My Ophidian Eye, that's I like to do that in response to Kediss triggers on the stack if I can. Like I'll have 3 mana in combat with the Malcolm hitting. I will go, okay, Malcolm is hit, treasure's on the stack. I'll make the treasure so I can have a little bit more interaction up. When the Kediss trigger's on the stack, I'll draw 2 cards. Tandem Lookout is my searchable.
Yeah.
I can just straight up search this. Imperial Recruiter can grab it. More importantly, Goblin Matron can grab it if I have a Maskwood Nexus out.
Oh yeah, true.
Goblin Matron is actually goaded with Maskwood Nexus. She grabs anything
True.
in my deck.
She
Any
grabs the
creature.
Gintorn or the pingers.
Magda,
Wait, don't you have a Goblin
Magda
pinger?
grabs him.
By the way.
I do. That's why it's actually mostly in the deck.
Here, Hedron
So,
Detonator. Yeah.
gotta remember, we're a pirate. Cheating is in our nature. Not in the mechanics of the game. I just want to stress that real quick. We are very much we can definitely win this by searching out the One Ring, Cursed Mirror, Phyrexian Metamorph, or Maskwood Nexus with Tezzeret. The untap has never come up because normally if I have the One Ring and I have Tezzeret is engrave. Transmute Artifact. Oh, love that card. It is the most countered spell in my deck, and I love it for that. People know that it will get the win, so already that should tell you it's a great card. But they counter it, and it only costs me 2 mana, and I don't have to sacrifice the artifact as a cost. So
True.
I still have my artifact. I still have most of my mana up, and they used interaction. And in this deck, the best part about this deck is how low our interaction is. This is our free interaction. We have 9 pieces of it. As sort of the theme of the deck, we have 3 sets of 3. Just joking. So basically, this stuff is free for us. Snap is basically free. It untaps the lands. I run Ancient Tomb. I run City of Traders. And this is also why it's so key for us to get out Malcolm on turn, because we do run Daze. We do run Deflecting Slot and Fierce Guardian Swordship. Daze is actually really key to keeping Malcolm out on turn 1.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds. Underworld is our least used combo, but Underworld Breach is one of our most used cards, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, it's a good card in general. It doesn't have to be a combo piece to be good. It's like a huge burst sometimes, just.
That's copy 3 and 4 of Glenhorn Buccaneer. It has actually come down to that. Glenhorn has been countered again. I'm playing it again, guys. And our 1 mana interaction is super good. Obviously, we're running the full suite of Pyroblast and Red Blast, Swan Song. The March of Swirling Mist was a late addition. Haven't regretted it. We have so many dead blue cards sometimes that I was just like, well, if I keep up 1 mana, I would like to not die the next turn. So how about March? That has done so much. We run Otawara because if you are in blue and you're not wanting Otawara, are you playing Legends? Like, are you even playing Commander?
I mean, you're probably gonna have your both partners in play. It's actually a 2 mana interaction in general because you're mostly going to have 2 legendaries with it, I think. Here's the thing too, you're only on 2 colors. This is just tapping for blue, so like I think it's an auto include basically for your deck.
The thing that makes me different from every other Malcolm Kediss deck is I am running all 3 of the fatal turns. I have found with Malcolm Kediss on so many occasions, I just need to draw like an extra 5 cards to win. And that sounds like a lot, but for me, that just means I need a turn. I just need an extra turn with my One Ring. I need an extra turn with my Malcolm with a Curiosity, or an extra turn with my Niv Mizzet. So by running these, I guarantee that turn. It also lets me like play a counter war and then bait out all their interaction and then just go, okay, can you do it again? Because I know I can. And lo and behold,
I mean, they have. I've actually looked at some data on these, and we're gonna look at them soon. They are performing really good. Like my recommendation have usually been on most of my videos more and more now that you should probably play at least Last Chance or Warriors Oath or all 3 of these potentially.
Izzet colors, they have terrible tutors unless you're trying to find artifacts. Luckily, I am. But there is, in fact, a reason why we run 3 of almost every card in this deck. It's because we also run Intuition. When we have one piece of any combo, being able to Intuition for the other combo in triplicate really works. Oh, I have an artificial mutation. I need a pinger. Okay, well, I'll search for all 3 pingers. Oh, I have the pinger. I need an artificial mutation. I'll search for all 3 of them. Oh, I think I have the win. I definitely have a curiosity effect. Well, I'll search for Glenhorn, Niv Mizzet, and Underworld Breach, and you can guess which one people are going to give me. It's very rarely Underworld Breach for some reason. Worst card in the deck, most common card not to be given with Intuition. It's a good reason, too. Basically, I search out 3 of the curiosity effects, 3 of the pingers, 3 of the pirates. This deck is triplicate, man.
I see. Yeah, that's a very good point actually. Just making sure that your intuition is always going to be secure.
All right, so I run 3 wheels, Jessica's Will, Time Twister, and Vision. A lot of people don't understand why I run it. It's not because of what you think. I'm not trying to do this later in the game. I do these because they allow me to mull down to 2 and 3. Simple as that. If I have these in my deck, I can mull down to 2 because Malcolm on turn 1 is still pretty good and he will get me a wheel. I can mull down to 3 and play this turn 1 normally. This is the key to my success is I am super consistent in my deck. I run 3 of everything. So being able to mull down to a hand that is going to get my value engine online means that I will win eventually just because I will have so many redundancies.
So your deck have a few things others don't. However, there are a few cards that are auto-includes, so to say, when among all the Kediss decks. As you remember, there have been 21 decks that have entered into tournaments playing Malcolm and Kediss by various people, and they have all included Curiosity, Chromox, Tandem Lookout, Flusterstorm, Magda, Gamble, Force, Ancient, Jeweled, and Mana Crypt, Niv Mizzet, Study, Glinthorn, Imperial, Kediss, Unoffer, Fierce, Mystic, and Steam Vent, apparently. However, besides looking at auto-includes, there are a few cards that are played a little bit here and there in a mix. So for example, looking at Drift of Phantasm. So what you see here, just above my head, is total decks. That's the grand total of all the Kediss Malcolm decks that have entered into tournaments. And if you calculate the average win rate amongst those, you have 23.81%. Now, above the total decks, you have Play It. That's the amount of decks that actually have entered into tournaments with Drift of Phantasm. And they are getting an average win rate in red of 19.21%, which is a drop by 4.53%. Now, there's a lot of numbers here, and I want to highlight that the sample size is not that big, but it's showcasing a small indication of the card's negative potential. The takeaway from this picture basically is that it's not recommended, or what would you say?
It is a definite trap. People run it because it'll search out your Glinthorn. I have Glinthorn marked as an alternate win condition because guess what happens? People are ready for the Glinthorn. People are expecting the Glinthorn, and you just transmute it for it, so people know it's in your hand. So now you either have to have 5 more mana, like 4 to 5 more mana to like ensure the combo happens that turn, or you're going to play it, hope that it somehow survives and doesn't get hit during combat, which I'll tell you right now, if you don't have mana up to interact, your Glenhorn's going down. People are terrified of that card when they see Malcolm. They will hold up interaction for that card, and they will let you get away with a lot before they'll interact because they're waiting for that card. Drift of Phantasm is a trap, and more importantly,
So you would
doesn't do
potentially,
anything else.
yeah, that's true. So you would potentially believe that even though the sample size is kind of low, the win rate might be correct.
The win rate sounds exactly what it looks like. I would not be surprised because I believe that when you run a tutor like that, you're probably also running some other bad cards to get out Glinthorn. Maybe you're running Pyre of Heroes or something like that. You're trying to like force the Glinthorn. Most of my wins in my tournaments, like not Glinthorn. Couple are like I think 3 wins out of 3 tournaments. All my games were Glinthorn. Out of all of my games, were Glinthorn.
Yeah, I see the point.
It's just good.
What do
Okay.
you think about Gilded
So,
Drake?
Gilded Drake. It's not a trap, unlike Drift of Phantasms, but it's just not as good as it used to be. And in your deck, you're putting onto the board something that can take your Malcolm away. Not the best decision. People run clones. You put a Gilded Drake on the board, why do you need to take their creatures? You run clones. You're already going to have their creature. For the same mana, you can play a Phantasmal Image. And guess what? You don't risk having your Malcolm taken away from you when they clone it. It's very important that doesn't happen. Malcolm on someone else's field is painful.
I want to add something actually. So the sample size, as I mentioned before, is extremely low. There's not that many Kediss Malcolm decks entering the tournament. I hope this video will change that. However, I've actually looked at Gilded Drake in a lot of other commander decks too, with more sample size, like Tivit, Nagella, Atraxa, Blue Farm, etc. Gilded Drake is not performing great. It is usually quite low on the win rates, so to say. So I actually believe that what this is showcasing, that it's not recommended basically. So we looked at your wheels, and you did not actually include Windfall.
That's a very simple reason. My wheels all do 3 very different things. One refills my hand, one takes away my opponent's graveyard, one gives me mana. Windfall fills my opponent's graveyard and gives them more cards than they had before. That is not something I want. On average, if I can Windfall for a bonus, my opponent will either stop it. If I'm Windfalling for value, my opponents will let it go because they're drawing more interaction. If I'm Wheel of Fortuning, it is because I have mulliganed or because I am trying to kill someone with Glinthorn. Nezahal, I was running it. I thought I needed that threat. Here's the fun fact about Nezahal. If you're not Kinnan, you are paying the full retail value on it. 7 mana is quite a lot of mana. I can afford it, but here's the thing. It doesn't immediately draw you cards. It costs you cards because you're going to have to discard to keep it. It has no evasion, if I'm reading it right. It can't be countered. That's cool. You know what also can't be countered? Your Niv Mizzet, and it costs 1 less. And since you're using treasures, you can hit that 6 pip cost pretty easily. All in all, Nezahal had to go. It's a discard outlet for Glinthorn, but I've talked about Glinthorn already on this video. It's a trap. Don't run Nezahal if you're not kidding. So Direfleet Daredevil, I did try it. I do have a win with it, not in tournament though. In tournament, it was dead every single time I drew it. I cut it for the Mox Masters Invitational. I played something like 50 games before I cut it, and it only won a game once. It didn't even have value most of the games. You're paying retail again. This deck is all about, if you're going to pay retail, it better do something amazing. And I'll tell you right now, we are not an Adnos deck. We might have really low mana costs, but we are not an Adnos deck. Please understand this. You don't want to steal someone's Adnos.
Now, looking at this page, you can see that it has a very amazing win rate. But like I said earlier in this video, once again, I want to repeat, the sample size is extremely low. We're mostly just looking at the win rate a little bit because of funsies, like taking a small look at it. But I will potentially agree. I kind of like Direfleet Daredevil in budget reasons. So for that reason, you could probably play it, but it is not that great.
Defense grid, goated. just absolutely goated. The problem with Defense Grid is people play it wrong.
Yes.
If you watched the Mox Masters Invitational, I used this card as the biggest bait spell on the planet because the person I was trying to get to interact could pay already. He could pay this all day and not care. I was just trying to get some interaction off the table or maybe force the other two players to do this. The cool thing about Defense Grid and why it's the GOAT is when you are ready to win, just get it off Magda. Just straight up slam it into play off Magda. No one's going to stop you because no one's seeing it coming till it's already there.
I 100% agree. Absolutely. Like, the part where you're tricking into play things that goes through counterspells is so key in this game. It's very hard to stop like an Magda activation compared to like casting Defense Grid.
Facebreaker is an honorary pirate. He steals treasure from everybody, and then you get to start going off the top of your library. I don't know if I've mentioned it or if you've noticed, our commanders don't draw cards, but they do make a lot of money. Guess what Facebreaker can say? Let's turn that money into cards. He's great for that. More importantly, he makes Malcolm make 4 treasures off an attack. Can't get much better than that. So there are, I think, like 5 auto-include hands that you just keep. Very few of them don't have, like, you playing the One Ring, Rhystic Study, or Mystic Remora. If you can play Ragavan, don't worry about your turn 1 Malcolm. Play the Ragavan instead. That is literally like, oh, I have a land and a Ragavan. Do the other cards matter? No, I'll make another treasure off him. If I can't play him, if I can't play Malcolm off that, I'll play a Kediss off that, and I'll play Malcolm turn 3 because Ragavan is so good for the deck. And he's a pirate. He makes 2 treasures when Malcolm's out.
I have to say I agree.
He's just goated.
Yeah, this is...
Love that monkey.
I don't think it's an auto-include, but it's very close. For some decks, it's like one of the best. A very good card.
In our deck, it is an auto-include because we do need treasures, and he can dash and make a treasure. Actually, Cavern of Souls is kind of a legit thing to do on turn 1 with Malcolm. I have literally gone Cavern of Souls, Jeweled Lotus, and have used the blue mana to pay for Malcolm, just so I don't get Force of Will. I do that only with people that have played me before, because they will Force of Will it. They will do it every time. I will play the Jeweled Lotus, and they're like, okay, we're going to wait for him to crack the Jeweled Lotus, because then he's going to commit more to the board. And then I'll play the Cavern of Souls and name Pirate, and they just go, oh, bro, come on. It's like, I'm
That's
like,
actually
yeah,
a
I'm
worthy
aware.
point.
I know what you're doing.
But that's a worthy point. I mean, because this is a very commander-focused deck, and it needs the commander to kind of start the engine a tiny bit. So I've observed that too. As I've played against this deck, interacting with Malcolm is a pretty good idea.
Kill the bird has always been Magic's fundamental policy. That's why a lot of this deck, the difference between me and the other players, is again that redundancy lets me just keep Malcolm in the command zone a lot of times, as you might have noticed, Mons.
Yeah.
And you don't always need Malcolm to win. You know, sometimes people will just feed your fish.
I've experienced that. Who needs Malcolm? Dragonite, not a problem. We have fish. Who cares? Link in the description below of the video.
19 cards in the finals off a turn 1 Rhystic Study before I got out Malcolm.
Then you don't need Malcolm.
And he got immediately Gilded Draked. He got Gilded Draked immediately. And I still won. Because I was like, you know, he's great, but there's other really, really great cards in this deck. Now, just so you guys know, just because I'm not running these cards now doesn't mean I won't run them someday. It's important to know the meta does change, and it will.
That's it for me and Samurai. I hope you learned something cool and got inspired by Kediss and Malcolm. Samurai, thanks for coming here and showcasing your decks, and congratulations once again for winning Mox Masters.
Thanks for watching, guys. Go win some tournaments.